we met when I was 15, and then he wanted to grab my number, and I thought I wasn't too sure if I was going to give somebody older than me my number. But I just feel sometimes there are times in life when you meet somebody and it's like destiny and you're meant to be together. And against all the odds, our journey began. So we dated for the first 3 years, and I think a lot of it was actually in secret. We were trying to find weird ways where we could meet each other. I would say I was smitten in love, but I also feel like I found, and that's when I would say I believe in soulmates, because I found my soulmate, even though I was so young. Something inside of me knew that I was going to spend the rest of my life with this man.
And it's so interesting because I traveled the world, met so many people, and in my culture, it's usually the parents who pick who you're going to get married to or recommend who you're going to get married to. But from a very early age, I just knew the person I'm going to meet is the person I'm going to meet, and it's going to be a feel thing. And lo and behold, the day I saw her, I knew that's going to be the person. And it's crazy because age was a factor. There was in today's culture and times, just to address the elephant in the room, there's a 12-year age difference between us. So in the older days it didn't matter, but in our days it mattered. Considering I was working, she was in school, how would all these things work? But albeit all that, it's what felt inside. It's the love. It's that connection. And the thing is, she felt it too, and I felt it, and everything else felt right except some of the age and how culture would accept it, how her parents would accept it, how society would accept it. But the fact that we love each other so much, we said, hey, let's just take the steps forward and see how this works out.
So it kind of worked out really well. So as we continue dating and we're smitten and we're in love, we have no idea that fast forward when I turn 18, that I get pregnant. And I would say that's pretty much when our journey began, because the first 3 years was all love. But now we were going to get tested with, does this love work? Does this love last? Does this love break? And I got pregnant, and I find out like that this little nausea that I've been feeling for 3 months is this little life that's insisting on being born. And I remember like I had a secret phone, and I go and I call him after I talk to my best friend, and I tell her, listen, I think what we were suspecting about me being pregnant, yes, that's true. And I remember she thinks, or she probably thought even in her head, I don't think I'm ever going to be intimate for the rest of my life. But I'm thinking, I got to be able to deal with this. And I still remember when I called him and I told him, Mohammed, I'm pregnant. I hear the screeching of the car, but his voice was perfect. He said, do you need me to come over? And I remember saying, I haven't told my mom and dad yet, because I'd gone to the doctor, and that's where I found out with the ultrasound. He said, can I come over, and can I will tell your parents I'll marry you. I haven't even digested the fact that this is real and this is happening. And I go downstairs and my parents sit me down. My mom by now has figured it out. And I still remember her asking me, do you know who the father is? And I was like, yes, I know that, I'm pregnant, but I'm very aware that it's one man and I know who he is. And I still remember calling you home.
Yeah.
And I remember he was sitting across from me on the sofa, and he looked me in the eye, and there was like this buzz going on around. But it's kind of like in that moment we shared this moment where he looked at me and he winked. And he turned around and told me, breathe, I got you. And I remember thinking, you know what, I'm going to marry him. And so my parents were like, then you have to get married in a week. So you found out you're pregnant on a Tuesday.
Right.
And in 1 week, you have to be able to get married, because that's the consequence of getting pregnant. And I think they thought at some point we would back out.
Yeah, I think what they thought was that because of the age difference, the fact that it happened so fast, it doesn't happen. Indian cultural weddings are huge. They take time to prepare everything. You have all kinds of relatives involved and everything else. And this was completely off the beaten path. And I think and feel that with everyone putting us on the spot the way they did, they thought, okay, A, we would back out from it. Secondly, we would go back on our decision. Possibly Shan would think, okay, let me just abort the baby. This is all happening too fast. But you know what? I love her. I love the fact that she knew what was inside her. I was just blown away with her strength and her determination that even her parents didn't know about.
So we decide we're getting married, and I remember the build up to that was crazy. But then on our wedding day, because we couldn't afford a venue, we couldn't afford to actually have a wedding because he had stopped working to be able to stand on his own 2 feet and figure out what he wanted in life. One of them was not being employed, and the other one was not to have a shock of suddenly a wife and, you know, a 3-month pregnant wife at that time. And so I remember we went to Diamond Plaza, and he was picking me up a wedding ring, and it was plastic, and it had this plastic heart diamond on it. And I remember by the time we were actually getting married, within the week, the plastic had changed color and it was now pink. Whatever plastic it was made of. And I remember looking down at my finger on that wedding day, and the plastic diamond fell off. And I was like, oh my God, this is not a sign, right?
It was crazy.
But I think I don't remember most of the wedding because it was a blur.
But it's something that we have to give credit to at least one family to over here, because we had a beautiful family with 2 angels who just swept in and took over the whole wedding.
Yeah.
Muna Danani and Arifa Danani, their family, their kids, just swept in and looked after us. We didn't have anything at that time, no money whatsoever. And they held the wedding at their house. So we were married in less than a week of finding out that she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And before you know it, she was preparing at the age of 18 on how to be a mother. And I was now preparing how to be a father in about 6 months' time.
Right.
So all of a sudden now, priorities had changed.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pressure. And all of a sudden now, in the Indian culture and community, you're the talk of the town. So there is this pressure to want to deliver, or there is this pressure to want to perform and to make sure that you do well for your family. And I realized at that age, now that I think back about it, it was a lot of pressure. So what I forgot to do was to keep poise and to keep balance. The beautiful thing is I had a beautiful wife who constantly told me, hey, we'll take this journey together. But being the man that I am, I constantly thought to myself, hey, she sacrificed so much for me already. I will carry this on my shoulders. In hindsight, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and I should have relaxed a little, and we should have taken these steps together. But in that, I put a lot of pressure on myself. And in putting a lot of pressure on myself, I began to change my personality. And my personality began to change. I became more frustrated. I became angrier. I became more upset because business wasn't working out the way I expected it to work out. Results weren't coming in the way I expected them to come in.
But the bills were piling.
The bills were piling. The child was coming. Needs and wants for a pregnant lady are there. There are all these changes to make. One day you're single, the next day you're going to be a father. It's a big change to make. And that began to give me a lot of pressure. And that pressure, unfortunately, started to come out at home in our little arguments. And first it went from arguing to verbal abuse, and then slowly but surely, and unfortunately, it even crept and had its chance at physical abuse.